All right, in this second demo of putting together our poster, we're going to make kind of more creative decision using our compositing skills about this background. And so, if it works on black, if it's readable, if it works on 50% gray and it's readable, and it works on white and it's readable, that means we can almost use any kind of background, any color, any texture, and our spot illustration and our text solution will still be very readable. One little thing I wanted to do before I even get into that is I wanted the blood from the skull to drip over the text. So remember, these are all just layers, but they can get complicated because we have a lot of layers now, some with effects, some without. So you always want to know what things are doing what. So I'm going to take my black lines, hold down Shift and all of the flat color, and I'm going to move it on top of everything. Okay. And then I missed one of them. Let's see. I think it's these two. Got to move those on top. Those are my color holds. Yes, indeed. And so I want this overlapping, but I don't want this overlapping. And that can be really tough. So we're separating out these two now. So what I'm going to do, and this is always an option because we have our vectors, but what I'm going to do is make copies of both of them. And then I'm going to select both those copies, holding down Command, and I'm going to do Command E to merge them together. And when you merge even smart layers, it's going to rasterize them for you. And so the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can delete or separate them from each other. So I'll take this part here, duplicate that on its own, and then erase that from the first layer. Okay. So now I have them in two separate components. And this one here, I'm going to move on top of everything. And this one, I'm going to leave where it is. Now, what's nice is I can actually still leave my vectors behind. It's just that I was able to put this on top of the skull and behind the blood here with this technique. And you want to zoom in and make sure everything still looks clean as you add these layers. That looks pretty good. Now the problem is whenever you do break up or selectively use your smart layers, you have to rasterize them. And so this is no longer a smart layer, though there is the smart layer underneath. But I'm just using it to overlap the skull there and go underneath the blood there. All right, now we're ready to get more interesting backgrounds. If you want to organize even further, you can create folder groups. So I'm going to call this the spot illustration and text. And then in this folder, I'm going to put all of these layers. And so I can just turn them off and on. And now I'm just going to work on the background behind it. To find a good background, I'm going to go to Google. And I'm just going to type in maybe a circus poster background. Remember, designers love to put things up for other designers to use, but we have to transform it and make it our own. And then, of course, there are lots of stock image companies, like Shutterstock is a very big one you'll see a lot, that wants to sell you the rights to these kind of backgrounds. But if you understand compositing, we can use the best features and still make it our own. So I want something a little bit more subtle than most of these. And so maybe instead of this circus background, though I do like this, I'll open that in a new tab. I like this a lot. Maybe I'll use another descriptor. I might try a sunburst pattern background. And for ones I find that look usable, look interesting, I just open them in a new tab, view the full-size image. That has a watermark on it. It's all right. Maybe I'll use it. I'll drag it off to the desktop. This one has a watermark on it. Maybe there's something I can use. And depending on what you're looking for, you can get more specific. Now, just like we overlaid textures for our composite landscapes, we can do the same thing here. So I like this one. I'm going to bring it in. It's on top of everything. I'm going to scale it up. It's just in preview now until I hit return. I can stretch it and scale it. And you know, that looks pretty bold. And if I used it just as is, its resolution would not be very good because I sized it up so much. See how it looks really washed out? So we want to find ways to make it more useful on these backgrounds. So one thing I can do is I can try overlay mode. And soft light. That's kind of nice. Pin light is one of my favorites often. Kind of solidifies it. So we have these different options. With black behind, with gray behind, with white behind. But I'm still seeing that watermark pretty strongly. So I definitely need to push this a little bit more to make it my own. I'm going to go ahead and rasterize it at this point and play with opacity. I can play with different filters. Yeah, I'm going to do it on white. I can play with different filters. Because it's just a textural background I'm using, I can use sharpen. And I definitely don't want it to overpower my text or my spot illustration. And right now it's pretty bold and bright. So let's bring in something to kind of dull it down. Now I like the sunburst around the skull. Whoa. Can overlay the two. Yeah, it's hard to see what I like best, but we're getting there now. I think that's probably enough to work with. And now I'm going to crop and make a border. So I want the image to only be about this big. And I want a white border around it. We're dealing with some large file sizes here, almost a gig. So that's why it's taking a while. I'm going to cut out a bottom border here. Maybe crop it one more time. And so then using canvas size, I can very easily just build a white border around all of it that's even. And I like the subtle interior border I'm getting here. Maybe I'll change my mind, but the straight edge there of the colored bars, stopping just short. So that means I need to resize it on this side, get it to stop short on that edge as well. It's already stopping short at the bottom, and maybe I don't want it to stop short at the bottom. And you just try different solutions. Maybe I don't want it to stop short at all. Maybe that will just look like a mistake at the end of the day. Run a sharpening filter on the second one. And I'm pretty happy with that. Now notice, because I used compositing skills, I used opacity, I used filters, I used overlays, you can't see watermarks at all anymore. They don't look at all like their source images. No one would be able to say, well, that's this image that you used. So I've really kind of made it my own to work with this. Now the last thing I might want to do, and this is kind of an interesting trick you can do, is I'm going to save it. Always good to save your work. But then I'm going to play with combining all of my spot and text things together and then doing layer effects on that. And you'll see what I mean. So this is kind of a shortcut. Instead of copying each of these, because I have them in a group, I can duplicate the group. So I've now made copies of all those individual layers. But with this group, what I'm going to do is select them all and merge them together. And of course, that's going to rasterize my vectors, but I still have them safe in this grouping. And all I want to do with that, now that they're all merged together, I can do a few things. Basically, what I want to do is make them very dark, like so. And then I'm going to just blur them a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to move them behind, move that whole folder behind my clean vectors. And what it gives me is a subtle drop shadow behind everything. So you see that difference? Now I can do this with layer styles as well, but if you use layer styles too much, it just looks kind of machine made. And so I like to do things in other ways. So I like that shadow behind, that drop shadow. And I can play with opacity, make that less strong. I can even double it up and make it more strong because it's a Gaussian blur. You know, the more I overlap it, the more it will kind of show through. I think that's about the right level. And then I'll merge these all together, and I have my drop shadow.